David Kerns from Texas has recently started as IPM coordinator in Texas, taking over for Charles Allen.
Thanks a lot, Joe. As he mentioned, I'm new to IPM coordinating. Just started a couple of months ago. I want to thank Dr. Charles Allen. He was instrumental in putting most of these slides together. I added a few, but without his information, I wouldn't have been able to do it, not to any great extent. Just to talk briefly about what we have, in IPM in Texas, it has a long and strong tradition, and we have a number of positions. Some we call IPM agents, and these individuals primarily work in agriculture. There's some that may work in a few settings that are more urban, but for the most part, they're agricultural agents. And then we have another set of individuals we call program specialists. And they mostly work, they have more like statewide or heavily metropolitan areas. We have one program specialist, for instance, pecan specialist, and others that work in either Houston or Dallas or Austin, places like that, or in the school IPM system. Now, what we have as far as degrees with our people, we mostly have Masters of Science individuals. We have a few PhDs. The positions actually require a minimum of a Master's of Science, but we allow them to actually work on these degrees as they move into their positions. So we do have a few that are working on their Masters as they go. We can even allow some to even work on PhDs as they work in these programs. And you can see, at least in Texas, we've had a lot of turnover, and we've had a lot of people that have retired or moved on, and just a few individuals that have 11 or more years of service. Most are new people, so we do have some challenges facing us as far as getting these individuals started and working into the program. Now, if you look at the IPM agents, we currently have 13 that are scattered throughout the state. And these are individuals that will work in a variety of different areas. We'll have some that concentrate insect pest management, some that concentrate areas of even plant pathology, nematology, weed control, even some that concentrate in agronomic areas such as fertility and irrigation management. This program actually started back, it has a long history, back in 1973. And it's been going strong ever since. I think at one time we had upwards of 20 IPM agents in the state. And when this started, it started right at the beginning of the IPM system, how we define IPM. And they were instrumental in starting the adoption of IPM throughout the state. Now, when I was in high school, I actually worked as a field scout for one of these IPM agents up in the Texas Panhandle. So I was kind of got in on the ground level of this, and it's kind of interesting that I've made full circle, and now I'm back with the program as a coordinator. Now, these positions were primarily cotton areas, and cotton was a heavily insecticide use crop at the time, with multiple problems: tobacco budworm, cotton bollworm, boll weevil. And so a lot of issues, and that's where we really needed the emphasis. And that's why you'll see a lot of these positions are still in these types of areas, in these heavily cotton production areas, along the Gulf Coast and primarily out in West Texas. There's still 4 million acres of cotton out there, and there's still a lot of demand for IPM agents. Now, the thing that we wanted to do is we don't want to compete with private consultants. Private consultants, that industry kind of developed along the same time. But what we've done is concentrated in areas where there's not a lot of consultants. And as things have moved forward, it's been very beneficial because with new technologies, BT technology, the boll eradication program, new herbicide technologies, that these areas, a lot of these areas have lost their consultants. The consultants that have been working there, a lot of them have moved out. There just wasn't the demand for that service anymore, and that we've been able to actually continue to provide services where the consultants have left. And the main thing we want our agents to have is flexibility. So we don't want anybody necessarily concentrating on one single area. These have to be kind of jack of all trades, because they're representing a diverse region with diverse problems, and they have to be responsive to issues, whether it's insect, disease, or weed. And so we'll see a great bit of movement in how these people react to different things. We obviously have holes, and there's some holes that we'd like to fill, and I don't know in the immediate future, but at some time. The northern Texas Panhandle, which is heavily corn, and there's even cotton up there. There may be over 250,000 acres of cotton up there this year. We have a hole there. In the northern rolling plains of Texas, we used to have IPM agent here, and we no longer have a position available there. Out in West Texas, in the El Paso area, we just recently lost our IPM agent in this area. In the southern Blacklands, another hole that we'd like to fill. And then in the Winter Garden area. These are all areas that we would really like to have people positioned in that are missing in the state. So I wouldn't say we've got everything covered, but we have a lot covered with our current amount of people. Now, if you look at our program specialists, these are the people I've mentioned that tend to be, again, they're more specialized. We have people that work in urban, and that'd be like in Houston and San Antonio and Austin. Then we have our IPM school person, and then somebody that works at the ponds, and then we have one individual that works in the nursery and greenhouse industry up in Tyler, Texas. So these individuals tend to be more specialized in what they do. We don't expect them to be necessarily jacks of all trades as we do with our IPM agents. Now, how these people function is they tend to be, we call it lightning rods of their areas, but a lot of crisis management. So when situations arise that are difficult, these are our boots on the ground, our people that are there to address these issues. And they have a very strong stakeholder connection. So what we'll do, each of these individuals will have a steering committee that's made up of their clientele. And they dictate to the great extent what these individuals will concentrate on. We want you to concentrate on sampling for soil fertility, or we want you to scout for weeds or diseases in peanuts. There could be a whole plethora of things that they want, and this is what they tend to direct them toward. Or a lot of them really what they want is research. And all of our people will conduct some sort of research, one sort of another, and they will direct them to do those sort of events. Now, we're not out there on our own. These IPM agents, especially, they have a very strong base to provide support, and these would be more like our extension specialists. We have a number of plant pathologists, agronomists, ag economists, entomologists, you name it, horticultural engineers, just all your extension personnel that can help work with these people. So our goal is to develop team efforts and to get them working together. Specialists, the IPM agents are kind of out in the field. That's it, our boots on the ground, and they're a valuable resource for our extension specialists. When I was an extension specialist in Lubbock, cotton extension specialist years ago, I worked, almost every project I had involved an IPM agent. Now, when you look at funding, we have three main sources of funding. You know, one that Dr. McForest talked about, the USDA NIFA monies. We get a great amount of our monies from the state of Texas. So the state of Texas has been very supportive of our program. And then we bring in about a third, almost a third of our funding from ourselves. So this will either be through grants or working with industry. We partner up with a variety of people. Of course, our farmers, this is our clientele. We work with commodity people like sorghum checkoff or perhaps plains cotton growers. There's a number of commodity groups we work with. Of course, our county extension agents, and you can read the list yourself. We have a variety of people that we partner up with to conduct our activities. And so if we look, let's look at what we've been doing. So let's take a glance at what we've been doing over the last few years. Of course, the number one thing we're doing is servicing our clientele. And as I kind of mentioned some of these things, it could be sampling soil for nematodes or fertility. There's actually quite a bit that goes on. We have a lot of guys that go out IPM agents and plant variety trials. And these may be looking at maybe verticillium resistance, or maybe nematode resistance, or just performance, agronomic performance. We do a lot of scouting. And as I mentioned, we don't want to compete with our consultants, but we still run scouting programs. Some of them, we run two different types. Some of these are intensive scouting programs where it's almost like a consultant. They'll go out and they'll intensively scout a large number of acres, and they'll help make management decisions on those acres. Another type of scouting program may be what we call a survey. And they'll pick out fields throughout the area, their geographical area, that kind of is representative of the whole area, and they'll scout those fields, and that'll give farmers an idea of what's going on in their area. And so these are typically areas that don't have a lot of agricultural consultants helping them out. Just a lot of different things. We provide just basic data to the farmers from how their crops are doing, and help them make decisions. And we're there to hold their hands. And like we get the big dust storms or just agricultural disasters, we're there with them to offer any kind of support that we can give. Now looking at our financial support, again, this is from self-funding. If you want to see, just to give you an idea how we generate our money through self-funding. A lot of that is from variety trials, that be your seed or pesticide trials. Then our scouting and market, you can see that 37% of it comes from this scouting programs. And so they'll charge us either by the acre, or sometimes they'll work through gins, like a cotton gin. And the gin will pay them 6 cents a bale or something along those lines. And then we work to help train our agents and our growers, of course, but our county agents. We'll work to train our county agents so that they can be an integrated part of these programs. We'll put out newsletters, do a lot of face-to-face trainings, offer a lot of CEUs, and just help conduct field work. So when a county agent has some field work in an IPM, we have an IPM unit there, they'll typically work together to get these kind of things out. And then we conduct a lot of educational meetings. And again, these are your CEU type meetings, which are required by the Texas Department of Agriculture. And they're vitally important to our growers and our consultants so that they'll get the hours that they need. And how we get our information out. So we'll put out newsletters, but actually as far as volume, newsletters aren't that big. Most of our output is actually through either social media or through television or newspapers. And we'll get a lot of information out that way, but I would say probably the most impactful ways are probably through social media and the newsletters. And so, but there's a whole plethora of ways that we get our information presented to our clientele. And you can see this enormous number of contacts. This is from last year. Like 19 million contacts. That's incredible. Of course, when you work in those metropolitan areas, it helps. And then we publish a lot either through meetings. We'll go. We encourage our IPM agents and program specialists to present at national meetings like perhaps this one, and also to go and talk to any kind of group that actually requests it. But a lot of service as far as working with undergraduates, even graduate students, and working on committees as far as service goes. And lastly, I want to go through a few of our collaborative programs that we've had some award-winning programs with. Number one would be like the Zika program. We've been vitally instrumental in getting information on Zika out to the public. And this is data from this year, and you can see we have like 200 and, I don't know, over 200 million contacts as far as Zika viruses and mosquitoes are concerned. Sugarcane aphid, this was a big one. And over the last few years, we've had an enormous impact in managing sugarcane aphid in Texas of over, again, $250 million in impact with that particular pest. And you can see this is with sugarcane aphid, our millions of contacts since the pest arrived. It's been going up exponentially. And lastly, our school IPM program has been very successful in the state, thanks to Janet Hurley, and has been very impactful. And we get rave reviews over our school IPM program every year. And with that, I think I've used up all my time here. Thank you. I think we could probably save questions for the panel, but. I'm sure Jason has a question. Trey. The question was, how does the school IPM program work? And so what they do is they teach the proper way to monitor for pests in the schools, and really how to properly treat for them. So there's a plethora of misinformation apparently in how these things go, how they manage whatever it is, rats or cockroaches, what have you, in the schools, and quite a bit of just ignorance in general. And Janet has very successful in clearing up some of the mythology involved with pest management, and how to treat for these pests without with minimal use of insecticides or poisons, and how to properly trap for them and all that kind of thing. It's pretty involved actually, so I'm not going to do it justice by trying to explain any of it. Yes, sir. So the question is, how do we make IPM relevant without directly competing with private consultants? And I think how you do, we try, like our places where we have most of our intensive scouting programs, these are places that are neglected by consultants. And that doesn't mean there won't be any there. There may just be a few. But we don't take their clientele. And if their clientele try to come to us, we turn them down because we would just be a conflict of interest. We don't, like I said, we don't want to compete with them. Areas where there's more competition among consultants, if there's heavy competition, that's where we run these survey programs. And so we'll actually, and it's kind of dicey because what you're doing is you're checking up behind these consultants. And sometimes you just got to find the right consultants to work with. Most of them don't mind. And then what that IPM agent will do is report on what's going on in that field, but they work real close with the consultant as well. If they find an issue, they don't go, oh yeah, we got an issue, they don't tell that to the grower. They're going to go to the consultant first, let them address the issue, but they can report on what's going on in the field. So it's working with the consultants rather than against them.